Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
We ask our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet to get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. I'm joined alongside Tim, live in Green Bay. How you doing tonight, Tim?
Doing great, man. How you doing, Clay?
Oh, doing good, man. Doing good. Just got to get a little housekeeping done here right off the bat. We're going to be real quick with it. Thank you guys for the orders. You guys lit the merchandise store up. Absolutely lit it up. Here's the problem. You're all getting refunds because we did something wrong. So essentially, we are not allowed to use the word Packers on any kind of merchandise. Okay. It's called what they call it, intellectual property. Okay. So the word Packers we cannot use. So we're having to change it up. I love it. So we knew this was going to be trial and error, right? So we're going to try to get as close to that as we can, but do everything legally, obviously. So, and we don't want to take anything away from the Green Bay Packers, obviously. That's
right,
first and
absolutely.
foremost. You know, that's what we play to first and foremost. So, but with that being said, if you did place an order, thank you so much. That's awesome. I was excited for you to get the merch. I feel like we did a good job designing it. We're starting from scratch. So you will be getting a refund if you haven't already. I know I got a refund for the products that I had ordered. So we'll get it straightened out, though. Appreciate you guys trying to support us in that regard. Tim, this morning we talked about how to attack the San Francisco 49ers defense, right? That was kind of a little game planning session we did. We used some Brian Baldinger video to break down some of the things that kind of prove the point as far as the analytics, the 33rd team data, the SIS data, all that stuff, and how to attack the 49ers. Tonight, what we're going to do is really key in on playing defense, obviously, to stop their offense. That's going to be the game plan we put together tonight. Before we get started, do you have any kind of preconceived notions? I had a bunch going in, and that's why I'm curious to see, when you think about the 49ers and their offense specifically, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you if you were to say, okay, here's how you beat this team?
Oh, I mean,
There's no wrong answer either.
First things that come to mind are Christian freaking McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. So I mean, certainly they have weapons, right? I mean, that's the glaringly obvious thing, and they can attack you with the run, they can attack you with the pass. I mean, yeah. We're going to have to – I don't want to come off like we're intimidated, but, you know, we've talked about it. You know, San Francisco is going to be it's going to be a hell of a matchup for us, and it's going to take a, you know, team effort. I keep repeating myself, but it is. And it's a good thing nobody on our team is playing for themselves right now. Everyone's playing for each other. So we got to take these weapons on, you know, by committee and, you know, try and get out of there with a win. I really don't care what the spread is. I don't care what the final score is. We gotta leave Santa Clara with a victory. But yeah, man, I just think of weapons, and of course Brock Purdy. You know, we can't take anything away from their kind of Cinderella story there that they're having with their quarterback as well. Certainly having a solid season himself. So all hands on deck, man.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup because, you know, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I was thinking. I know I predicted the Packers to beat the Cowboys, but you guys can go back and listen to it. There's not a whole lot of confidence in my voice. I was on Ryan's stream. I think I said 30-27 was what I thought the Packers could do to pull out that win. Now, when the Packers make the playoffs, I promise you this, you're never going to see me or hear me predict against the Packers. So take that as you will, right? Yeah. You don't make the playoffs and go, I don't know, I think we're going to lose this one. But I think it's important to point out what the pros and cons are as far as the individual matchups, the schematic matchups, kind of how both teams pair up against each other, right? So let's kind of start from the top and let's talk about what their defense does good. I'm sorry, their offense, what their offense does good. And I'll probably get tongue-tied a couple of times. But before we do that, I want to highlight a few things that came across the wire today, some positives, okay? And then we'll jump right into their offense. First of all, Romeo Doubs, highest graded wide receiver from the wild card games, 93.3 PFF grade for Romeo Doubs. There's not another wide receiver that was on the field during the wild card matchups that had a higher PFF grade at the wide receiver position. Absolutely awesome. Now, Jordan Love, 91.7 PFF grade since week 13, first amongst all quarterbacks. This team is humming right now. They're completely, I mean, I don't want to say they're peaked, but they are pegged out right now, right? They got the throttle, the pedal to the metal. Zach Tom, highest graded tackle from the wild card games at an 84.0. Obviously, he was matched up with Micah Parsons most of the day. Elton Jenkins, this whole season, 542 pass blocking snaps, 0 sacks allowed for Big E, 4.4% pressure percentage allowed. So the offensive line can hold up between Zach Tom and Elton Jenkins. Obviously, we know what we've got there. You know, I asked Mike Wall a few weeks ago. I think I was in Florida when I asked him this. I was on the pod with him. I said, Mike, give me your assessment of this offensive line to this point. He said 74 and 50, absolute studs. Everyone else can be replaced. I went, all right, got it. There you go. And lo and behold, look, and he hates PFF. I don't say hates. He doesn't like PFF either. But look at the PFF grade. Highest tackle from the wild card games, number 50, Zach Tom. And then, of course, Elton Jenkins hasn't allowed a sack all year. Pretty cool stuff. So the divisional round weekend schedule, if you will, you've got the Houston Texans at the Baltimore Ravens. That's going to be Saturday at 4:30 Eastern. That's 3:30 for you guys Lambeau time. It's going to be on ESPN. Then we got Packers at the Niners Saturday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern on Fox. So it'll be the same crew that called the Cowboys-Packers game last week, Greg Olson, and I can never think of the other guy's name. Burkhardt, right? Is that what it was? Kevin Burkhardt?
So. Kevin Burkhardt, yeah.
I think they do a good job. I like them. Tampa Bay on Sunday, 2 o'clock Central Time, Tampa Bay at Detroit, right? That's going to be on NBC and Peacock. Hopefully it's just on NBC and you don't have to have Peacock. I'm telling you, it was just an absolute cluster last week. And then Sunday night, 5:30 Central Time, 6:30 Eastern, you've got Kansas City at Buffalo, expecting cold weather again. Again, that's a 5:30 kickoff. That'll be a dandy right there. I mean, we got some good football coming up, guys. I mean, you look at these teams in the NFC and you go, okay, San Francisco, obviously the heavy favorite to win the NFC. You look at the AFC, you can't rule out Mahomes as much.
You sure about that?
As much as I like to dislike Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, especially since the arrival of Taylor Swift, you know, you can never rule them out. Buffalo's a hot team right now. Baltimore, I think, is the best team in the AFC right now, though, personally. So it's going to be interesting.
I don't listen too much Taylor Swift.
I don't either, Jordan. Nothing against her, but I don't either. So we'll kind of see how it shakes out. Those are going to be some good matchups. So I'm really excited about at least 2 cold weather games. You know, I'm old school cold weather football. I love that outdoor ball. So anyway, Make sure you guys get your popcorn ready for this week. An injury report, just a real quick glance. This was from yesterday. We hit on it, did not participate. This was a mock one. A.J. Dillon, Kingsley Enagbare, Elton Jenkins, Isaiah McDuffie, and Preston Smith. And again, they didn't actually practice. They're going to be doing just walkthrough all week long. I was looking for the most recent report there from today. I still hadn't seen it come through by the time I put the show together. So we'll hit on it tomorrow morning and get you guys updated. Now, let's jump. Anything you want to hit on as far as all that stuff we just covered there, Tim? Romeo Doubs, Jordan Love, Zach Tom, Elton Jenkins, any of that?
Oh, it's just great to be on top, right? I mean, we got multiple top performers here during a wild card week. So, you know, like you said, man, I don't think we've peaked yet. I mean, we're redlining, you know, that needle is humming right now, man. We're redlining, but I don't even think we've peaked yet. I think our best ball's ahead of us still. Yeah. And that's where you want to be this time of year, right? Meaningful football in January and really hitting your stride. So go Pack, go, man.
Definitely. Doug in the chat said Wyatt's comments suggest they showed them the Ravens film. Yeah, I was on the bike earlier, Doug. And I try to get about a 5-mile ride in here in the house, like the fat Caucasian middle-aged man that I am. And I'm sitting there, and I'm hearing the comments. People were talking about on a podcast the comments that Devontae Wyatt made. And basically what he said wasn't true, but I can appreciate the enthusiasm he said it with. He was basically saying all you got to do is get pressure on Brock Purdy and it all falls apart. Not in those exact terms. And it's actually quite the opposite. I think he's got the second or the third highest passer rating when pressured. So not going to be quite that easy, right? But Doug's saying Wyatt's comments suggest they showed them the Ravens film. That's the first thing I thought of when I was sitting there riding the bike listening. I went, they must have watched the Baltimore tape, because I'm going to show you guys the Baltimore tape, because it's really the entire second half of the season. It's the only piece of negative tape that we have to pull from, because the 49ers have just been that good right now. Here's something else that people were pointing out earlier. And matter of fact, let's get to this video real quick, and then we'll get into the game plan. Okay. I want to hit this real quick. This came from, I think this was NFL Total Access on the NFL Network, a quick little clip. Kind of cool. Going to show you, I think it's Sean O'Hara that kind of talks about rust or rest, right? Think about resting your players. Sometimes that can throw a wrench into things, right, Tim? I mean, we seen the Colts. It happened to the Colts one year. They decided to sit their starters, and they were the dominant team in the league. That was when Peyton was there. They come out in the playoffs and went flat, right? But
chemistry and rhythm are real things, and momentum. All those things are real. They're kind of the intangibles of the game, but you really notice them when things like that happen, right? Pull your starters early or sit your starters, see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see what they have to say.
Rest versus rust.
Yeah.
So right now, the Green Bay Packers have unbelievable momentum. They just came off of an unbelievable performance. Now with Brock Purdy, it's like, okay, I haven't played in 2 weeks. Do I come out and start slow? That's what they can't afford. And we just saw the Green Bay Packers come out and right down the field, the first drive of the game. That's really, I think, the biggest question. And look, Brock Purdy had one bad game really this whole season. It was against Baltimore. He had 4 interceptions. Yeah. So can he continue to take care of the football? Because that's really the key. You said it best, David. This 49ers offense is better. Yeah. Like, I look at these as 49ers are the fastest car. They're the Ferrari right now. But I think Jordan Love might be the better driver right now with the way he's playing the football. So I think you look back to a couple years ago, these two teams played in the divisional playoff game. It was 13-10. The 49ers won. Aaron Rodgers was sacked 5 times. He had an awful game. He did not get rid of the ball. He couldn't get away from pressure. Jordan Love, as good as he's doing with scripted plays, he's doing just as good a job when things kind of go haywire. And he's got to buy some time with his legs. His impromptu throws are what's leading the Green Bay Packers right now. And I think that could be the equalizer for the Packers. But Purdy right now, all he's got to do is just get the ball out. Like, he's got such good players around him.
And Christian McCaffrey getting healthier too, as he was a bit banged up down the.
Keep talking about it, guys. Keep talking about it. Keep making us out to be the underdogs. That's what we need.
Yeah,
we need all the help we get. Exactly. Brooke in the chat said, "Did you see Dobbs' locker room interview? He looked so sad, not used to the media. You guess." Dobbs, the thing I've noticed about Romeo Doubs since day one is he looks very, very uncomfortable when talking to the media. And I'm telling you, man, it makes me like that kid that much more.
I think you gotta, one thing you gotta know about Rome is that, like, and I know I'm talking about him like we're best friends, okay? But he's a different kind of dude. He's a humble guy, but extremely confident in himself and in his teammates and his abilities. He has a very deadpan, dry kind of sense of humor. So what I'm trying to say is don't judge the book by its cover for sure when it comes to Romeo Doubs, because he's kind of a wild card, man. He's a unique personality on this team, and there's nobody like him. There really is. There's nobody like him, and everybody gets along with Rome. And I think there might be truth to that as far as comfortability with the media. I mean, some guys are better than others, or more open than others, more outgoing than others, but Rome's such a good dude, man. I think, he's not intimidated by anything. So I don't think it's nerves or anything like that. I think maybe just when dealing with the press, he's just got his own approach. But definitely one of the most interesting guys on our team for sure.
Yeah, the vibe I've always gotten from him is he's very shy, nervous around the media, and he's very cautious and guards his words, which I absolutely love. I love watching him on the field. He's not a guy that's going to get all amped up and celebrate and say, look at me. He's got that Barry Sanders approach, hand the ball to the ref and go back. Absolutely. There's nothing you can do to an opposing team or specific player that hurts more than just absolutely embarrassing them and then acting like it's not a big deal. Not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. Right?
Like you've been there before.
Amen. But if I remember correctly, too, Romeo Doubs, Brooke, I believe, if I remember correctly, he grew up in a real rough area, too. I want to say it was in Southern California somewhere, like maybe like Long Beach or something like that. I think it was in SoCal. But, he grew up kind of rough, if I remember correctly, and this was kind of his ticket out of there, is to, work his rear end off and make it in the NFL and get his family out of there with him. And I think he's just one of those humble dudes. And what I love about him is he doesn't seem to care what anybody thinks about him, and not in a selfish, bring attention to me way, just like, hey, look, I'm here to work, put my head down, grind it out, and get the job done. I love the dude, man. I think we're so blessed to have him. And you guys have heard me talk about him the last 2 years, especially this last year and going into this year and even throughout the year. He is one of, if not the best number 2 receivers in the entire league. Now, that's not to say he can't be a number 1. I'm simply saying he grades out right there in that range where you put him on a number 2 corner, he'll eat their lunch.
Oh, yeah.
He'll give a number 1 corner all they want, right? But you put him on that number 2, you've seen it, I think everybody would agree that Bland was probably the number 1 corner in that game on Sunday. I don't even know, did Bland play? I'm assuming he did. But he graded out really high, but we didn't hear his name at all, right? But you always seen Stephon Gilmore getting cooked play after play with Romeo Doubs.
Yep.
So
Rome's a leader too on this team. We talk about that, number 2, borderline number 1 role kind of thing, but that's something that goes, at least from my experience, as far back as training camp. And then we really saw it kind of throughout the year, him kind of emerging as one of the younger leaders. He's a second-year guy. By no means a veteran yet, but not a rookie anymore. And, does a lot of leading by example, right? We always love that. And you can definitely tell that he's put in the work, man. It's showing out there on the field.
Definitely. Jen Wright, I was going to play that clip, Jen. I meant to get to it. He was on First Take too, I believe, or not First Take, but Undisputed with Skip. I was cracking up because the video, he was like, yeah, we were just able to do this and do that. And Skip went, yes, you were. Him being a Cowboys fan, it was absolutely hilarious. But Jen says, yes, Clayton, he talked about it on Good Morning Football. So, you love to see those guys kind of battle through adversity when they're. Yeah, it's like Donald Driver, if I remember correctly. Didn't they live in a U-Haul for a little bit? His family was homeless. So, just love
that. Just reminded me I was going to read his book again. I just picked that up the other day. Finally got a copy of
another amazing man. Just
man.
Steve G in the chat said the 49ers lost to the Vikings, so I'm not worried. I want to agree with that, but who did we lose to this year?
Yeah.
So any given Sunday, right, Steve? But I appreciate the energy, man. That's one way of looking at it, right? For sure. So, and I'm rewatching for the 3rd time today, the Baltimore Ravens versus the San Francisco 49ers and kind of seeing how it unfolded. It was really close until after halftime. Like it's 10-5 right now with 10 minutes left in the second quarter. So it was a defensive struggle, man. One thing is for sure, win, lose, or draw, if Green Bay's offense comes out and they push the ball down the field and they score points on this 49ers defense, then this Green Bay offense is the real freaking deal. There's no doubt about that, man. So, all right. So let's get into the game plan. You ready for this? I started a couple of them. Donovan says, get Purdy off his spot. I like it. I think that goes hand in hand with what my game plan came up with, to be honest with you. And I apologize if the connection's bad. We'll try to get it straightened out. It looks like we're getting a bad connection. We've got great internet connection, but for whatever reason, connection is unstable on StreamYard. So we'll get on their rear end about that again too. Jen Wright says, rush Purdy, play zone coverage. Jen's been studying. Jen has been studying. Brandy Lewis says, interior pressure, Slayton, Clark, Quay blitz, something. What did Baltimore do? We'll talk about it here in a second. They did some fire zone blitzing. They played zone match principles too. We'll talk about it. You guys are on your spot tonight. Well, I love it. All right, let's get into it, Tim. Just to recap real quick. Offensive personnel, excuse me. They play 11 personnel 30% of the time. That's 31st most in the league, but a number 1 EPA ranking. So there's no one that's more efficient according to EPA ranking and SIS data than the San Francisco 49ers in 11 personnel. 21 personnel, trying to see if I can read that number. It's awful small. I want to say it's in the 30s, 36% for 21 personnel. That's second most in the league. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate that, buddy. And they are 8th in EPA in 21. And then 12 personnel, 13% of the time. That's only 25th most in the league, but number 1 in EPA there. So there's really, they're top 10 all the way across the board, really top 5, you could say. Now, some people will go, why are they playing more 12 this year? I think it has to do with use check struggling, personally. We talked about his PFF grade being down. I think Shanahan's noticing that and going, all right, he's just not performing where he once did.
That's the natural progression, right? If you're running with a traditional fullback and you're not getting those results like you want, you're gonna go with another tight end, right?
Absolutely, man. That's the only thing you got if you want to try to keep them in base coverage and get a little bit of a head up on the play action game, right? So,
absolutely.
As we quickly run through their offensive identity, shotgun 60% of the time, right? That's 28th most in the league, but number 2 EPA. Let's just key in on the EPAs. We went through the tendencies the other day. The only thing that they are not absolutely phenomenal at as far as EPA ranking is gap run, and they control whether they run gap run or not. So do with that with what you will. There's no weakness on this offense. Now, that doesn't mean they can't have a bad day. That doesn't mean we can't have a great day. But there's no other way of looking at it other than they play really, really efficient, and they are so strong. They're so loaded with talent on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, when you look at their offense, right? Brandon Ayuk, 92.3. Christian McCaffrey, 90.6. Trent Williams, 89.7. Brock Purdy, 88.4. George Kittle, 87.6. Deebo Samuel, 83.0. This looks like a Madden cheat code right here, bro. Yeah. So that's how you end up being 9.5-point underdogs, right? Now, we're the hottest team in the NFL right now. That could carry over. They took a couple weeks off. They sat their starter. They haven't played a meaningful game of football now in 3 weeks. Think about that.
And that's why us going out there and doing exactly what we did in Dallas, again, is so important. We've got to go and just slam that gas pedal to the floor from the beginning. I'll tell you what, I hope I don't give nothing away just in case, but I wouldn't be surprised we saw a shot play on our first snap on offense, honestly. And much like we did in Detroit, and just try and hit this team in the mouth early like we can. Or, if it has to be another 8-minute sustained drive down the field with Jonesy, I'll take that too. Don't get me wrong. But we got to start fast, start strong, start aggressive, offensively and defensively in this one.
Yeah, definitely. I want to give a shout out real quick to Justin Nelson, became a new YouTube member of the PTA Posse. Appreciate you, Justin. We'll get you entered into the contest for the autographed rookie card of Romeo Doubs. We're going to give one away this weekend, immediately following the post-game show, or during the post-game show, immediately following the game. We're going to put your name on the wheel with all the other YouTube members. All you got to do is click on our YouTube homepage, click join, and become a member of the PTA Posse. That'll get you entered in the contest to win.
Such a great giveaway right there, right, Clayton? I mean,
it really is, man.
Man, yeah. United Bates, thank you. That was that's phenomenal.
Yeah, and then coming up after that, we get the Jaden Reed rookie card. So you're definitely going to want to stay a member for sure.
You're giving away investments, right? I mean,
pretty much.
Imagine what these jokers are going to be worth in a few years, man. Have fun. Pre-shout out to the winner, whoever it is.
No doubt. Remember, hey, don't forget about us, all right? Don't forget about us. All right, so this is what I came up with as far as our defensive game plan to stop their offense, right? They run motion 76% of the time, okay? Them running motion, what defense is most vulnerable to motion? It's man coverage, right? You can really manipulate a defense that's in man coverage by using motion. It's why we try to use it so often. Their EPA when running motion is number 1 in the entire National Football League, okay? Zone run. They run zone run 77% of the time. That's second most in the league. By the way, motion second most in the league too. EPA with zone run, first in the National Football League. All right. So they are the best zone run team, and they are the most efficient when using motion. Both of those things, in my opinion, suggest stay in zone coverage. Zone coverage is your best shot at stopping the run. I think everyone would agree with that. You're a little bit vulnerable against the run, especially on some of these tosses, some of these stretch plays, things like that, right? So it's going to be very, very important to stay in zone. I think that's probably the way you need to attack this. Now, when you talk about their running game, let's highlight one of the positives of their running game here. Okay. And this is Brian Baldinger breaking down. I think it was from the Philly game. There may be some other tapes, some other clips in here too. But this is kind of a positive outlook before we get negative, because I'm going to show you what went wrong for them in the Baltimore game. The only straw we're grasping at to say, hey, this might be the game plan to beat them, right? So first of all, let's show what they do really, really well running the ball. Here's Brian Baldinger. You can follow him on Twitter at Baldy NFL. One of the best follows on Twitter. He does the best breakdowns. Here we go.
A big reason why this 49ers running attack is good and great some days is the play of Aaron Banks. A big man that can move. Like, that's hooking a 3 technique right there as McCaffrey goes right off him. You watch these runs here, and you watch him angle blocking on Jordan Davis right here, getting into him and then walling him off. And there goes McCaffrey. See, a big guy that can move that's been well coached by Harry Heastan at Notre Dame. You watch this here, and here he is. Like, again, the hook block. Guys just end up down on the ground when Aaron Banks runs them. He gets them moving, and then it's like tall timber. Like, even right here against Milton Williams in Philadelphia. He wants to go inside, fine. Let him go inside. Watch where he ends up on the ground. That's what happens. Now, with Trent right here, take care of Jalen Carter. Now work up to BG. You never know where the cutback is going to come. And where's it come? Right off Aaron Banks, pushing Brandon Graham. One play after another. You just watch this, game in, game out. Like right here, cutting Jordan Davis off is huge. You run him. All right, you get him on the go, and then you wall him off. And there goes McCaffrey. I mean, a huge part of McCaffrey's success is the play of Aaron Banks inside.
Man, I mean, you see, Tim, they're stout in the running game, dude. Stout in the running game. So I wanted to, kind of show a little respect there because we're going to show some negative clips. I didn't want it to seem as if, hey, they're horrible at running the ball, right? They are arguably the best team in the league at running the ball. We'll highlight what went wrong in Baltimore. Let's hit the super chat real quick. Robert Johnson, appreciate you, buddy. He said, good morning, USA. I was a GM for a NFL Europe team back in the 90s. The stats and X-Files offense that Love and LaFleur runs is a scary one, by the way. Can you fix so we in Europe can order your merch? We'll get on that for sure, Robert, definitely. And I agree, man. I like how you said X-Files offense. I'm assuming you did that on purpose. It is, I mean, some of the looks they were showing last week was absolutely wild. And it's new to us, right? Like, yeah. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, oh, this is Green Bay's offense, of course. This is LaFleur's in his bag. There's no doubt about it. So, but appreciate the super chat there, buddy. And as soon as we get the merch store completely up and running and figure out what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do, I'll make sure that I do everything in my power to get it to where we can get it to you overseas. If we can't, then you can let me know what you want, and I'll just order it for you and pay the shipping and send it over to you. So we'll handle it that way. But appreciate you supporting the show, buddy. It's good to see you in here. I seen you highlight this one. Tim, you want to go ahead and hit it right now?
Yeah, I got some Niners fans in here. Green Bay is way ahead of schedule. Y'all should be ecstatic that you have such a great young squad. Well said. Much respect. We can cheer for different teams and show respect. And I appreciate that, man. We got a lot of hateful vitriol from Cowboys fans going into our matchup last week. So it's nice to see some level-headed Niners fans stepping in here. We appreciate you checking out the stream for sure.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm really, really guilty of hosting a podcast is highlighting some of the negative fans, right? You really shouldn't give them the time of day. And there's 10 people, 10 fans of other fan bases like Dambo88 in here that just had that comment. There's 10 of those to every one knucklehead in every fan base, right? Like we said, there's one in every village. So we need to do a better job of highlighting people like Dambo and their comments. For sure. So, as far as
this right here,
as far as them being a great young squad, Dambo, we appreciate you saying that. But the Niners right now, man, they're the creme de la creme, I think is how they say it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just John Lynch, man. I know it seemed like it was last year or the year, but there was one year where people were like, is John Lynch the right guy for the job? And I'm going, I bet y'all glad y'all kept him, man. He has put a phenomenal squad together. Go ahead, Tim.
No, I was just saying, I see another comment from Dambo here. Just saying from a Niners fan point of view, Green Bay needs to get an early lead and make the Niners play from behind from the get-go. That's kind of, reiterating what we just talked about, kind of the same approach we had to take in Dallas. And that's what you do, right? You play up to your opponent. You're playing a better team, at least on paper, at least by the records and a lot of other things. We're hot right now, but, we got to match that intensity. And, this is a kitchen sink game for the Packers, man. We got to throw everything we can at this team early and often. And so it's nice to see 49ers fan kind of seeing that same point of view, because we don't watch a lot of their games, right? I mean, I haven't seen a lot of film until recently on the 49ers. So, always appreciate the perspective for sure.
Definitely. And like I said, I'm watching the Baltimore game right now. It was really close going into halftime. It's now the 49ers' first possession of the second half. Baltimore's leading 23-12, exactly what Dambo's talking about, right? They're having to play from behind. Purdy gets the ball, 12:07 left in the third quarter, 1st and 10 play, drops back to pass. They push the pocket. He tries to step up. Bad throw interception to, I think it was Patrick Queen, it looks like. Yeah, Patrick Queen with the interception. He may take it to the house. I don't think he does now. He gets it all the way back down inside their 10. So just a perfect example of what you're saying there, Dambo. And I'm not trying to dog on your team. This is, like I said, man, that doesn't happen very often. The only piece of tape we've got to pull from is this game right here. So that's why we're doing it, just to try to say, okay, where might they go wrong? Let's get into some more of the tape. Let's specifically talk about the Baltimore game. All right, Tim. I've got a Jake Shavink here in the chat. Appreciate you, buddy. He says, welcome at Dambo. Good to have you join in the chat. Yeah, I completely agree there, Jake. Appreciate you, Dambo. So let's talk about their running game and maybe what went wrong against Baltimore. Okay, and Dambo, this might be when you want to tune out, bro. Okay, because we're going to talk about some negative stuff here. We appreciate you though. So here's Baldy breaking down some of the Baltimore tape. Okay, this is him talking about their toss plays. They love to run a lot of toss plays and what we refer to as toss crack. Okay, and he's going to kind of explain some of this stuff to you. Here we go.
Toss crack, toss weak is one of the 5 basic plays of the 49ers. Let's show you how you stop it. All right, this is going to be toss crack, where Kittle and Ayuk are going to block down on Brent Urban right here. And McKivitz is going to pull. Now, you're either the hammer or the nail when you pull. Like, he's designed to block the force. But Marlon Humphrey comes, and he's the hammer. Bam! Like, Marlon Humphrey comes, and he makes this play. And what he does is he bubbles McCaffrey. Now, watch Roquan Smith, 0, and watch Matabike come. Like, here they come, and their speed and their ability to feet block show up, and there you go. McCaffrey's got no place to go, no place to hide, and he's met by both Roquan and Matabike. But that man made the play. Marlon Humphrey made the play, bubbling McCaffrey.
Yeah, just getting in there, sticking your nose in there, right, and blowing that play up. That's the only way to take out power runs, toss plays, things like that. You got to have a goon that just goes in there. It's what A.J. Hawk did so well. People like to dog on A.J. Hawk like he was a bad linebacker. He's the all-time leading tackler in Packer history. He's a Super Bowl champion. He won a national championship. And because some people don't like the Pat McAfee show, they're like, oh, Hawk was a bum. He was overrated. That dude played through so many injuries. It's not even funny. And he was so good at that, kind of playing Jack in that 34 zone defense, sticking his head in there and taking on that lead block constantly and allowing people like a Desmond Bishop to kind of clean it up. The fact that he kind of led the way most of the time, he being AJ and getting in there and blowing up those power run plays, and he still had so many tackles really says a lot about what kind of player he was. But that's when they run these toss plays, our guys have got to be able to get in there and do that. One of the people that comes to mind for me, Tim, at the safety position, if we are showing shell with late rotation, probably going to be Jonathan Owens trying to stick his nose in there and blow those plays up. We're going to need it, man, because they got a stout running game. So anything to add to that as far as the toss plays there?
Getting off your blocks and rallying to the ball. We can talk about winning your matchup and finding a way to be the hammer instead of the nail, as Baldy pointed out. But another thing you see there too is just rallying to the football. Plays are very quick. It's a matter of seconds before they're over. It's one thing to get blocked. It's another thing to stay blocked, So our guys up front and in the middle, man, they got to get off the block and rally to the football. You got to know where the ball's at. And, we're going to have to see a lot of that hard-nosed tackling, make sure you're wrapping up. And, San Francisco's got some guys that are difficult to bring down. We don't need to go down the list. We all know who they are. We got to rally to the football, gang tackles, that kind of thing, to find success against this offense.
Yeah, definitely. United Bates in the chat says, love AJ Hawk, and he's a gem on Pat McAfee show. Love him too. Chris in here, we found that village idiot. He said, LOL, McCaffrey had only 14 touches, still had over 100 yards and a touchdown in that game. LOL, is that right? Well, I'm looking at the score here, Hosscat. It ain't good. So, congratulations. He rushed for over 100 yards. I think at this point right now, I'm waiting for the score to pop back up. Yeah, it's 7 minutes left in the third quarter, and they're losing 30-12 to Baltimore. So not a good look. But with that being said, since you're using some bad language, let's just put Chris in timeout real quick, okay? He wants to be a little bit disrespectful there. That's how we roll, all right? Now, let's move on to the passing game. What do they do well in the passing game? Ask me that, Tim.
What do they do well?
Every damn thing. Everything. So versus man coverage, the 49ers are first in EPA. Versus zone coverage, they're fourth in EPA. So when I talk about we should play zone, a slight advantage there over playing man coverage from strictly a coverage standpoint.
Hey, do they use a lot of motion?
Yes, they do. So you wonder how they're chewing man coverage up?
Yeah, there you go.
Right? So what did Baltimore do well to stop their passing game? A couple of different things. They brung exotic blitzes, but they also played, wait for it, zone match. You guys know I'm a big zone match person, right? I love cover 3 zone match. It's my favorite defense in the entire league. Let's go to the tape and see what Baldy picked up on as far as the 49ers struggling against Baltimore's defense.
We all watched this play. Patrick Queen comes. He blitzes off the edge right here to keep McCaffrey in so he can't get out in the route. So right here, Purdy's looking, can't find anything. Queen wins. But this play right here is just not smart. And if the 49ers want to get to where they want to get to, you can't do this with the football. That you can't do. I mean, it looks fun. It's backyard. It's LeBron in the NBA, blind pass. That you can't do. That one has to get thrown out of the playbook. And you can't let that happen again. That's just careless. And the Ravens, their matchup zone, defeated this team.
So there, you heard him mention zone match, right? I'm going to roll it back again. Let's watch this specific play. Now, we don't have all 22, but you can kind of see what are they playing in here. They're playing a zero, maybe a little shade, like a little zero eye, if you will, on what we refer to as shade on the nose. And then it looks like they've got a safety, I believe that is, kind of cheating up there, showing a 4-eye, right? And then you look out here in on the wide 9, right? So you're forcing isolation blocks all the way across the offensive line. As we roll the tape, you see a wide 9, double wide 9 out there, really. And they're isolating Christian McCaffrey, not allowing him to get out in the route clean at all, making Brock Purdy step up in the pocket, right? Just relentless. This Baltimore defense is stout, man. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, it's a slam dunk. Green Bay's defense can do this. But if there was ever a day that the pass rushers were going to show up, this is the one right here. So you heard him mention it right there, Tim. Zone match, right? Zone match. Yep. So what kind of blitzes are we bringing, right? They brung fire zone and cat blitzes. Let's start with the fire zone blitz. You kind of seen it right there on that clip. I believe we've got another clip that shows it too, unless I doubled up here. I believe this is a different clip and showed you how they forced those turnovers and specifically the interceptions from Brock Purdy. Here's Baldy again.
Our eyes on Kyle Hamilton, number 14, on this play. All right, middle of the second quarter. These two right here, Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen, are just drawing blocks. They're going to bail. And then Kyle Hamilton's going to come free right through the B gap. And McCaffrey does exactly what he's supposed to do. He's there in blitz pickup. It's unfortunate that Banks hit him also. So it's an illegal block. But Banks is sitting on top of Kyle Hamilton. He's buried. Now, Purdy's trying to find somebody open. And when he comes back, he's trying to get the ball to Kittle late across the middle, and Marlon Humphrey pops it up, and there's Hamilton, who got up off the ground after Banks was on him for the interception. But here's this matchup zone, and this is why it's so difficult right here. This is nothing more than a disguised cover 3. Watch how they rotate, because here comes Hamilton on a blitz. So let's go. It's cover 3, that's all it is, but it's a matchup zone. So you're 3 deep right now, and Purdy's looking for somebody to throw to. But it's all matched up. Everybody is covered. So now Purdy's running around, and he's going to try and get this ball right here to George Kittle. And here comes Hamilton. Or here comes Marlon Humphrey popping it up, and there's Hamilton. Like, it's tough on quarterbacks. Really tough.
All right, so if we roll it back one more time with no sound, just to kind of show you what he's talking about, zone match principles right here. They're firing a blitz. Look how they're mugging. What did we do last week, right? Against Dallas, or this week, I should say. Showing that mug, right? Mug and Bell. Watch 6 and 0 here, both linebackers. Watch them. They're going to mug. They're occupying those offensive linemen without even blitzing, right? You see them drop back. That's what we refer to as a fire zone blitz. They fired the safety there. I think they said that was Hamilton that blitzed there. He ends up pancaked underneath a 320-pound tackle and still gets up somehow, some way, and intercepts the ball. It's just Baltimore's phenomenal, man. Kyle Hamilton was my draft crush that year. He's just unbelievable. But again, getting back, popping the ball up, forcing an interception.
Pressure pick.
Yeah, pressure pick, coverage sack, right? What we've got to do in this game, we've got to stay in zone match. I mean, the tape suggests it. You see it right here. They're going to fire him. Watch, like he was talking about, you got 2 on the shelf, Tim. You see it, right? You're showing shell coverage. Ball snap, going to fire the safety. The other safety rolls down. Bang, here we are. You're back in cover 3 zone match. You can see if and then. If the 1 goes deep, then it becomes man coverage. If the 2 goes to the flat, then it becomes man coverage. If it crosses your face, it probably would have went to the mock or the will becoming man coverage. If you don't know what your assignment is pre-snap, there's no way the offense can know, because there's about 10 different calls they can give within cover 3 in these cover 3 looks. So I think it's important to make Brock Purdy try to get him off his spot, like people were saying in the chat, but also make him have to make a decision every single play. Don't give him the answer to the test. Don't give him any answers pre-snap. It's what we did really good against Dak. You guys remember we showed the pick 6 from our boy Darnell Savage.
Take a look at this interception here.
Yeah, from Darnell Savage, right? With that pick 6, what did we do? We showed shell coverage. We rotated down to cover 3. He sugared the number 3 and then jumped the number 2, took it to the house for whatever it was, 64 yards, whatever. Yep. I mean, it was just phenomenal play. That's the type of stuff you're going to have to do to Brock Purdy to have a shot, man.
Sugar, deception, show this, do this, rotate, pre-snap, post-snap. You know, you're absolutely right about man-to-man. You know, the biggest downside to man-to-man, especially against a motion-heavy offense, is that it's literally nearly impossible for you not to snitch on yourself, because we've seen it time and time again. Quarterback comes to the line, hard count. What do we get? We see movement in the secondary. You see movement in the middle of the field. Hey, let's hard count, send somebody in motion. Is somebody going with them? They're in man coverage. And if you can ID coverage pre-snap, you know, you're giving yourself a leg up every time, and you're doing yourself a disservice on defense if that's the core of your approach. We talked about mixing in man looks here and there just to keep it interesting, but I agree, man. We got to go zone heavy and you know, man match or mod, whatever. You know, if and then, like you said, it's going to be key against this offense. Yeah,
for sure. Andy APAC in the chat says, possible dumb question. There are no dumb questions in here, brother. He said the preview where you're talking about middle field open, middle field closed tendencies for the 49ers. Why don't teams look at their own tendencies and just totally flip the script? Too hard to pivot? They do it all the time, Andy. Yeah. You know, we talked about it with Dallas. We were saying they play a ton of middle field closed man coverage. If you've seen some of the big plays in that game, I'm not talking about the cross country or the cross corner. Some people call it cross country. Some people call it the sail route, which it was a sail route too, with Doubs. That was man coverage, right? Could have been zone match, but I'm pretty sure it was man coverage. But look at some of the big plays early, where like the dig that Doubs sits down, he sits down in zone. They showed a lot of shell looks on Sunday too. So you've got what we call self-scouting departments. You've got people within your own building that's only scouting your tape. So you're making sure. Mike McCarthy was excellent at this. By the way, why has Mike McCarthy become a great head coach and won a Super Bowl in Green Bay? He started off as what we call quality control coordinator or quality control coach on some of the early staffs he worked on. They are just absolute gurus at understanding tendencies and making sure you're self-scouting so you're not tipping your hand too much. So absolutely, man. And the thing, here's the goal, Andy, to have as much success as possible by being as balanced as possible. Because if you try to lean on one thing too often and the other team game plans against it and they make you play left-handed, that's what Bill Belichick has got 6 rings from doing. I think he's got 5 or 6. That's what he got so good at doing with his bullseye defense, is making offenses play left-handed. He did the same thing on the offensive side of the ball. He had his hands in that offense way more than people want to give him credit for, too. He wasn't just a defensive coach. So the great teams across the league can do everything pretty good. Now, if we talk about middle field open, middle field close, I pointed out that middle field open, they ran 46% of the time, and that's 11th most in the league. Let me try to bounce back up here real quick and pull it up one more time. Middle field close, right? Middle field close 40% of the time. Middle field open 46% of the time. You see how close that is to being even? Now, if you look at the percentage rank, though, that's 27th most middle field close across the league. So according to the league, it's low by those standards. But when you look at the actual snaps, don't take this as, man, they play middle field open a large majority of the time. It's really not that big of a difference, right? So it's a great comment, a great question. Andy, teams do that all the time, and you want to make sure that you're not too predictable. Let me give you an example from the Packers standpoint. Remember early in the year, Clayton was complaining about split flow, split zone, and pulling guards. It wasn't working. They weren't buying it. When we would run split flow, they were ignoring the split flow and just attacking the football. You know why? We ended the year last year running a lot of split flow. So I guarantee the self-scouting department's looking at the tape and went, hey, look, guys, this is not working. We got to get away from it. So you went to more zone blocking. Then next thing you know, you went a little gap. You went a little power, a little G power, right, pulling the guard over on the strong side of the formation. Now all of a sudden, teams geared up on that. Bang, here comes the split flow back. So split flow is not going to catch the 49ers off guard, in my opinion. Now here's the $1 million question, though, probably the $1 billion question. If you're Matt LaFleur, you come away from the Dallas game plan going, boy, split flow chewed Dallas up. But San Francisco knows that. Do we stick with what worked last week, or do we go in and try to change it up? That's when you can get into this vicious cycle of outsmarting yourself, if you will. So you got to have a game plan and a backup to the game plan. It's not that you throw the complete game plan out the window, but you get, how many times have we seen, man, they got away from the run early. They probably got away from the run early because you had 2 straight possessions where on first down you got stonewalled for 1 or 2 yard loss, and it's not working. So, hey, let's get our feet under us. Let's try to pass a little bit, and let's adjust the running game. We feel like, or we try to pretend like they have the luxury of hitting the pause button and go, okay, let me think about this for a second. It doesn't work like that. So
doesn't work that way. I mean, and you're absolutely right about teams in the league, using deception with their defense. Steve Spagnuolo in Kansas City comes to mind. You see a lot of pre-snap, they're showing one thing, and then you've got post-snap, a play is literally developing, and they're rotating. They're rotating from single high into all of a sudden there's 2 safeties back there, and they're where the ball is. In San Francisco, that's why you see the balanced approach, because they're known to do that too. So we always talk about trusting your reads, right? Pre-snap read, post-snap read. Well, Jay Money and these guys got to understand that's going to be a fluid thing in this game. And, you don't want to be seeing ghosts out there. So like you said, you always got to be ready to adjust to evolving defense for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see. Brandy Lewis says that show 2 cover 3 was legit. Yeah, that's what we call spinner, right? That's called spinning the safety. Show 2 on the shelf and spin it. Sometimes you'll run what we call an invert 2 as well, where you'll show a single high look, and then you'll rotate that safety over and the corner will drop back in a deep zone. That's what you refer to as invert cover 2. Minnesota tried to pull that out on us on New Year's Eve, and you guys remember we hammered the base right down the seam to Jaden Reed and put that thing out of reach real early, right? Or at least got them on their heels real early. So what many people don't, I think they understand it. They just refuse to believe it or refuse to acknowledge it, at least when they're so passionate about like their stance in an argument. No matter what defense is called, no matter what offense is called, there's a pro and con to every approach. You got to understand, here's the strength of calling that, but here's the weakness. There's no perfect defense. There's no perfect, last year, everybody was clamoring for man coverage. We need to play man coverage. We need to play man coverage. And then we play man coverage against, the New York Giants. And what did they do on that last drive? Man coverage on 6 out of the last 7 calls, and they went right down the field and got the game-winning field goal, right? That's just one of many examples. Now, has man coverage worked this year? Absolutely. We've probably been more successful with man coverage than zone. But, boy, when man coverage breaks down, you don't have someone making a tackle for just a 13-yard gain. It turns into a 36-yarder or a 42-yarder. So what we refer to as an explosive, which triples your chances of scoring on that drive. So,
and you say on the flip side too, it's really, you're making the point of, it's not good to sit in zone all day either, right? You don't want to get stuck in either one of these tendencies too much. The key is to try and balance, or maybe not be balanced, maybe be in more favor of one versus the other, depending on how the game goes. I mean, that's why you see these call sheets, they change, there's notes being jotted down. They're getting new printouts after quarters and after the half. And, the game evolves, and, really it's what's the average football game, Clayton, 60 to 70 snaps, I tell you
on offense. Yeah. Let me look. I'll go look at the box score real quick. You go ahead and keep talking.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like you said, you have to have a game plan, but built into that plan, you've got to have other options. You want to lean on things that work and things that got you here, but also knowing that they're on tape, and you're going to have scouted looks. We're going to have some unscouted looks. Obviously, we haven't played this team this year, and we got a lot of new faces here. So, I think you got to have a fluid approach, and you got to be willing to adjust. We know that, offensively, you call a play, that's 2 or 3 different plays. You can check and make adjustments. So, we have to take that approach across the board when it comes to playing the 49ers.
Yeah, for sure. As far as the average amount of snaps, just hit the old Google machine, 63 snaps per team. So,
there we go.
Yeah. Each side typically has on average 63 snaps. And you guys know that can fluctuate depending on how efficient an offense is and how long the drives are, how many explosives you got, all that good stuff. Yeah. So
this shows how valuable every single snap is on a football field. They're not all going to be impact plays on the final score, but man, the slightest mistake on any given play can really change the trajectory of the game. I mean, just ask Dak Prescott, right?
Yeah. So Baltimore ended up beating them 33-19. That was the final. That's the first time I've seen the score today. I've been watching the All-22 all day. But Brooke in the chat says, do you think that since Matt and what's-his-face, I love it, are from the same coaching tree and run similar defense, they've got an advantage on how to think chess, not checkers? That's exactly what it becomes, is a big chess match. Yep. They know each other like the back of their hand, right? Just like Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur know each other like the back of their hand. We've got this misconception that the Niners just absolutely dominate the Matt LaFleur Packers, and it's not that true. Now, have they had success with us in the playoffs? Absolutely. You had those 2 previous playoff meetings. Now, we shut their offense completely down. If it hadn't been for a block punt return for a touchdown, we win that game, right? The most recent meeting. So that was Joe Barry's defense. The year before, where they just run, all over the field on us, that was Mike Pettine's defense. By the way, little more man coverage, little more explosives in the running game, right? I mean, people forget how bad our run defense was under Mike Pettin. I mean, it was horrendous. Yep. And you still, okay, well, Joe Barry's got a little bit better, but it's still not good enough. We gave up like 200 less rushing yards this year compared to last year. Like, it got even better this year with the rush defense. Now, we're going to be tested on Saturday, man. That running team, oh my God, they're a different beast. But yeah, as far as coaches knowing each other a little bit better than other coaches, absolutely, man. That's a real thing. That's something that's very, very real. Brooke, but we appreciate the comment there for sure. Got us a special guest in the house, Miss Carly Ray. Carly, how you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing good. I am so glad I got home. I was tempted to speed to get home so I could join this just fascinating conversation y'all were having.
What's on your mind? What grabs your attention? Is there anything on the forefront? We're at the 54-minute mark. You're pulling the famous Emilio move here. Get in here and get me in trouble. Keep us on late.
Yeah, I am. So this is kind of a complicated question, so hang with me. But you're talking about man and how you can give so much away with man coverage, especially with, let's see, hang on, I'm going to turn this on, especially with, like what Love tries to do with getting that hard count, and then some of the backs move or flinch or, start to go one way and it gives something away, then he cans. Is there a way that a defense could be disciplined enough to fake that, to like fake revealing man or zone and then actually be in the other? And would there be any benefit to doing that?
On Chalk Talk, we actually showed one. We call that sugaring. Sugaring is a very blanket term, but sugaring is a term that's used for you're sugaring a blitz, but you're belling out. You're showing blitz, but you're belling out. You can sugar by not showing blitz. It's just kind of staying at home, watching your feet, making sure your feet aren't giving away pressure points, things like that, where you're putting more pressure on a certain position. I mean, offenses look at that stuff. Quarterbacks look at it like crazy with DBs, but offensive line, they're looking at knuckles. They'll look at knuckles on the ground when people are in point stance, and they can tell what move they may be going to. It's just wild how they study tendency. But
we talk about the old mouth guard thing, right? The receiver lining up, and is his mouth guard dangling? Maybe he's not going out for a pass. Maybe he's run blocking, right? There's so many different things, right? You talk about the weight on the front foot or the back foot, right, Clayton?
Right.
A lot of that. We seen that with Quay Walker, right? Mugging a gap, breathing down that line's neck, and then he's flying up the field in coverage. That's part of the game, right? And it comes in a lot of different forms for sure. And I think the best defenses do exactly what Carly's talking about too. They stay disciplined. We've seen plenty of hard counts not work at all. We've seen guys sent in motion and they may just switch. They may be in man coverage. Maybe they don't send somebody with the motion. It's the deception. It's the sugar, right? Really, sugar is just showing one thing and doing another, right, Clayton?
You remember the play that we showed on Chalk Talk? We did it actually on Sunday against the Cowboys. They used motion. Quay stepped back and let Dre come across, and it looked like Dre was manning up the guy in the slot, which I think was actually the running back. He was actually blitzing. He came over. He was supposed to blitz on the opposite side of the field. But I guarantee you it was part of the game plan that, hey, look, when we're trying to show a too high look and we want to sell them that we're playing cover one robber, then when they use motion, Quay, you stay put. And, if you're firing on the opposite side, maybe it was Quay that was supposed to fire. But because they use motion, you sugar it and say, Devondre, you're now blitzing. Go over like you're in man coverage, and you'll catch their protection off guard. Like, they do it all the time, Carly, for sure, if that answers your question. Now, is it easy to do? Probably not. You know what I mean? Because you've got to be in complete unity as far as your communication goes on the back end. And that's the one thing that stood out on the tape, especially the All-22 the most, was these DBs communicating all day long in Dallas. I mean, you've seen it when they would show the bunch set. They've got that bunch figured out. We sucked at that early in the year. It was horrible. Everybody was getting twisted up. Now you can tell it's almost like when they go man or when they go bunch, it's almost like we just default to man coverage. And it's okay. Depending on your placement, if you're the middle corner in that nickel bunch, or if you're a linebacker, if you're the linebacker covering the tight end who's the number 3, then it's whichever one releases on your side, that becomes man coverage now, right? And the safety's got to be aware that, hey, look, if the number 1 receiver releases inside and that forces Devondre Campbell to man up on that receiver, the safety's got to know, or the robber's got to know, you've got to help there. That linebacker cannot run stride for stride with that wide receiver. These are all the things that you study with tendencies, and you got kind of, if a good coordinator has that game plan put in place, that if they show this, be prepared to adjust this way. But sugaring it's such a huge part of the game. I talked about Belichick and how he just absolutely dominated Peyton Manning, first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the top 5 quarterbacks of all time. He would sugar in a vanilla way, as silly as that sounds. They wouldn't tip their hand until he already came up, read the, okay, got it, let's change the play. They would show one look, and then at the last second, they would move into position. So they weren't sugaring something. I mean, they were sugaring it, but they wasn't doing it in an aggressive way. They were doing it in a very conservative way, and then a late rotation into their actual defense. So Peyton would come out and go, oh, yeah, they're in shell. Okay, look, check, change the play, blah, 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 put it all together. Soon as we got down to like 3 or 4 seconds on the play clock, too late to change the play now. All of a sudden, Belichick's defense would rotate. Peyton's going, crap, nobody's where I thought they were going to be. So it's that stuff, man, it'll make you fall in love with the game, the sugaring aspect of it. But, yeah. Hopefully that answered your question. Let's hit this last video. This is a cat blitz they ran, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the game plan that we came away with here. Let's hit this real quick. This is Baldy breaking down a cat blitz there from the Baltimore game. And again, this is a game where the Baltimore Ravens defeated the San Francisco 49ers 33-19.
Take a look at this interception here. The Ravens are in a cover 2 right here. Safeties are back. Here comes Ayuk in motion. They don't do anything.
So they're showing shell coverage right here. 2 safeties on the shell.
They just sit there in their zone coverage right here, but they're going to blitz both corners, both Brandon Stevens.
Perfect example. Look at the corner at the top of the screen. Do you think he's covering that receiver? There ain't no chance. A good quarterback glances over and look at the lean on him. He's not preparing to jam him. There's no bend in his knees at all, right? Yeah, and look where his eyes are. Look how he's playing inside technique on him. He's playing inside technique with a too high safety look. He's not covering right there. A good quarterback sees that and goes, all of his weight is leaning forward. That dude's blitzing.
Stevens and Marlon Humphrey, 21 and 44 are both coming. Now on the play, it's a good play. It's a good blitz, especially if they hand it off to McCaffrey right here. You're going to get somebody that's just going to force McCaffrey inside. But if you throw it like they do here, and they see Debo just expanding because that's a hot read against that look, the safety's got to come down and cover him. But Stevens gets his hands up in the air. And Humphrey was blitzing from the other side, so he gets a batted ball interception right there. And they stop that drive. They just do things different than every other team in the league. They give up yards. They don't give up a lot of points.
Baldy, careful about saying it's more important to give up points and don't worry about the yards. You'll get roasted. So cat blitz, double cat blitz, hands in the throwing lane. The only weakness I can find, and again, like Matt Schneidman pointed out earlier today, and Devontae White was this is why, remember how we started the show, one of the listeners in the chat said, it's obvious that Wyatt watched the Baltimore tape. He's talking about they watched the Baltimore tape today. He didn't say they watched the Baltimore tape, but his comments led you to believe they studied the Baltimore tape. So that's the other thing, too. Your self-scouting department's going back and going, man, we're looking pretty crisp. We're looking good. If they're watching that Baltimore tape, they may be firing a bunch of fire zone blitzes, some cat blitzes. So when you're watching the game Saturday night and you see Keyshawn Nix fire from that nickel, remember this conversation, right? It means they put it on tape. Now, if he hits home, you might continue to do it. If he bats a ball down, you might continue to do it. If they check to something like a quick bubble, or they just got a quick hot that if a nickel fires, get it out quick, then you might see us adjust back to just the normal vanilla quarter zone match principle with a little spinner cover 3, right? So
yep.
That's the cat and mouse game, though, for sure. Go ahead, Tim. You got anything, buddy?
No, just following along, learning.
Cool. What about you, Carl? You got anything to add? We're at 1 hour and 3 minutes. Let's get ready to wrap this thing up.
I guess just a final comment here. I was listening to just another podcast, and they mentioned that in the last game, the Packers, like their scoring drives, like 5 of them, or 5 of the scoring plays, or 4, and then one that set up the 39-yard reception. Who was it, to either Romeo or Musgrave, but they came after like time where there was either a TV commercial break or some sort of break. And what you said about like us thinking that they have time to just sit around and think or to come up with these things, it just seems like when they do have a couple minutes, that's where the genius really shines.
Absolutely. And how many times do you hear fans complain, oh, we're wasting timeouts? They're not wasting that timeout. That's Matt LaFleur going, all right, everybody get your breath. Come over here. Let's draw something up in the dirt real quick. Let's go to this play. Hey, okay, we've been hammering that slot cross, right? Well, they're really clamping down and biting underneath. They're biting underneath on that crosser. You've seen Gilmore do it, right? Why don't we throw in a sail route here? Throw in a sail route, Rome. You on the back. I'm not saying they did this on the sideline, but you would have time to do this.
Yeah.
If Rome's goes over there and they're like, yeah, they're clamping the crosser. Cool. Turn it into a sail. You give me a post on the backside. Let's turn it into a 2-high look here, right? And you know, let's just try to give Jordan time. That's the stuff that happens during timeouts. The casual fan with the beer belly hanging over the belt, sitting there sipping their Schaefer Light, you know, whatever it costs, $2.25 a case, sitting there sipping that beer. They're going, oh, these morons. They had 40 seconds to get that play together. Why'd they have to call a timeout? You idiot.
You get 6 a game, right? 3 per half. I mean, you got usually 1 to 2, maybe even 3, maybe even half of them are for situations like that. And then you got a couple that, you know, you want to save for clock, you know, management, and then, you know, your challenges, those kind of things. But I mean, we've seen that on the flip side too, right? You know, you get your defense out there and we're looking horrible against that, you know, you talk about the hat count, even pre-snap, you see a disaster out there, burn a timeout before you burn 50 yards down the field. You know, have the conversation and make the adjustment for sure. That's what they're there for.
Right. And I love Brooke. Brooke gives the in-house fan perspective on this. She says, I know sitting in the stadium wondering why nothing's happening. Oh, it's a TV timeout. Yep. I bet the coaches love TV timeouts, man.
Oh, yeah.
You know they do. They eat them up.
Players too, right? Another water break, right? Get them hands on the hips and grab some O2 if you need to.
Especially if you're on defense and it's play 12 of a drive, right? It's like, Absolutely. Give me that TV timeout right now.
Absolutely.
Andy APAC in the chat says, any thoughts on Devontae Wyatt's comments? LOL. 49ers fans are calling it bulletin board material. Why do you need that as a 10-point favorite? I agree that's a little bit extreme, Andy, the way they're approaching it. Now, if you're asking me, do I like the comments? I absolutely hate them. I hate them. There's nothing positive that comes from Devontae Wyatt coming out and saying, yeah, all you got to do to beat Brock Purdy, just get pressure on him. Like, not a good look. I didn't, but I was one that didn't like Jair's comments when he said, I told y'all we're going to run the table, right? We're going to basically win out. And you've seen how that went. I don't want to tell anyone how, you know, what they are not allowed to say. You guys know I am pro free speech, and that goes for our favorite athletes too. But if you were to say Clayton, would you rather him say it or not say it? I'd rather him not say it. I'd rather him say something like, man, we really got our hands full. This team's and then just come out and right in the mouth, baby.
There's some of that youth showing right there, right? We're a young team. That's
absolutely
things like that are going to happen. That's an indicator of being a young team. You know, the seasoned veterans, you know, Aaron Jones ain't saying nothing like that, right? You know, like, so I'm not going to be too hard on Devontae. I will say this, though, you better bring it. you guys better bring it in the trenches. You know, it's okay to talk the talk. You got to walk the walk, though, too. Otherwise, gets a little annoying, right?
Yeah, for sure. Andy says, I agreed. I would have liked a quiet week. Now, Paul Robertson says, I mean, Wyatt's not wrong. Paul, actually, I respectfully disagree. I think he is. Like, when you look at Brock Purdy's stats, you know, how he's measured up this year against the blitz with pressure, I should say. We showed you the worst game of their season, right? If you just watch that one game saturation, Baltimore game, you go, oh, he's horrible against the blitz. Not been the case this year. It's actually been really good against pressure. If I remember correctly, I could be completely wrong, but if I remember correctly, they said he was number 2 or number 3 in passer rating when pressured. So on the entire year. But yeah, Paul Robertson's the one who won what card did you win? About said it again, the James Lofton card. I was celebrating that Dallas win the other night, and I put John Lofton on the giveaway. I got roasted for it too, rightfully so. I appreciate y'all keeping me honest over here.
Yeah, he not only rambled, but he rumbled and stumbled.
Exactly correct, Tim. All right, let's wrap it up. Let's go around the horn. Carly, you got anything else? Carly said, I ain't got nothing. I don't want to talk.
No, sorry. I was working on responding to a chat.
Gotcha.
No, I don't think so. I'm really excited for this. I'm excited for the game. I'm excited for it all. And I hope Jacob shows his face around here so we can find out where the party's going to be at.
Well, Jacob's we're going to have to put Jacob on a milk carton. I think he's running from the party. So, I'm just joking. He's at work tonight. Is that something he's going to be able to put together? I know it was kind of short notice, but what do you think? Is he going to be able to pull that off?
It's only short notice because he forgot that he bet me and then didn't actually believe they'd make it to the divisional round. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's
we're going to give him some.
Conveniently short notice, right? Like, oh, I didn't know. Whatever, Jacob. Get your stuff together, Jacob. If I wasn't, 12 hours away, I'd come up there and throw that party. Seriously, if I was closer to Wisconsin, we would all be getting together about every weekend watching a game. That's a fact. We would never get a post-game show in. I promise you that. Yeah. But I appreciate you, Paul. And again, congratulations on the card, buddy. You should be getting that soon. We'll get that in the mail. Probably get that in the mail tomorrow, as a matter of fact. That's the plan. We got about 6 inches of snow and probably about 3 inches of ice underneath the snow up here in Washington County, Tennessee. So we didn't get out much today. I'm looking for, just like Jacob, I'm convenient, right? I didn't make it out tonight. So, Tim, what else you got, buddy?
Man, just the usual, check the QR code right up here in the corner. Scan that, take you right to Packernet Podcast. It's the home, the flagship. Got a lot of good content on there. Make sure you support. Hit the like button if you like the content. We love bringing it to you, and we appreciate your support. Right, Clay? That's exactly right. And Jim's got the best advice of the evening. He says, we need John Deere Green to get healthy.
John Deere Green on a hot summer night. Hero Billy Bob loves Charlene.
Charlene. I love it, man. Love it. Donovan in the chat says PTA pregame at a game next year, man, be absolutely awesome. We got to make it happen. I was planning on doing a post-game show last year for the Rams game, Monday Night Football. But by the time we got out of the stadium and I got back over to the Lodge Kohler, me and Jacob were just going to go to the Lodge Kohler room I had, and we had a beautiful view of Lambeau behind us. But it just didn't materialize. He had to get back on the road. There was a little bit of snow flying that night, and he was there with family. So I blame that one on Jacob, too. Thanks, Jacob. You screwed that up. But it was cool, though. We got to do a little pregame festivities. That's what we need is a pregame party at a ball game next year. We need to make that happen for sure. Come this close to going to the Bears game this year. Justin was there with his family. That would have been awesome. I should have done that, so I apologize for that, guys. But all right, let's get out of here. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us. We will be back tomorrow morning for Good Morning Lambeau. It's going to be a great time. You guys should swing through. I want to give a special shout out to Justin Nelson for becoming a member of the PTA Posse. If you're interested in joining our YouTube group, just click on the YouTube homepage, click join. That'll enter you into contests to win autographed memorabilia as the season goes on. If you get on that list by midnight Friday night, then you will be entered into a contest to win an autographed Romeo Doubs rookie card that we're going to be giving away. And no better time than after he was graded out as the highest graded wide receiver in the entire wild card round there last week. So that stock soaring there. Make sure you jump in there and grab that for sure. So
Packers stock soaring all over the board, right?
Just
all over the place, man.
Just here to tell you, Packers back.
That's exactly correct. Exactly correct. Right here, too.
Here we go.
Trolling that the rest of the year. All right, we're out of here, guys. We'll see you for Good Morning Lambeau in the morning. What we're going to do is we're going to break down the PFF matchup. So we're going to give you the first glimpse of basically this right here. Our 12 personnel against their base defense, our 11 against their nickel, our 34 base against their 21 personnel, our 34 against their 12 personnel, and our nickel 2-4-5 against their 11 personnel. So we'll give you all the matchups in the morning. Come hang out with us. It will be 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern. We'll be right here on this same bat channel, same bat time. All right, so we'll see y'all then. As always, let's go out and be the change that we want to see in the world. And go, Pack, go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Yes, a YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet. Get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here. And try to run this play in the alley.